We're live.
Welcome to Perspective Shift.
Yes. How are we doing today, Mike?
Good, Frank. Good to see you.
Same here, man. So how was your week?
It was great. It was. Good week. Had fun with work, you know. It's always nice when you can enjoy what you're doing.
Yeah.
You know, just kind of playing in things.
Yeah. I had an interesting week as well.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Anything cool you want to mention?
Yeah, because so here we are talking about perspective shift, and I remember I still do read and about other people, other spiritual teachers, if you want to call us that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how to label what we do, but it's kind of on that realm. But you always assume that nothing ever goes wrong in their world, but then when you get to know them, like you realize they do, and people ask questions, or you actually get to meet them and you talk to them. They do. But this practice here is to keep us focused in line. It doesn't mean you eliminate. It's not about eliminating anything. But anyway, this week, very interesting thing. I don't know if it crept up on me. I'm not even going to try to investigate. But this slight bit of anxiety came over me. What was really interesting, I've had a couple people come to me. They was like, "Hey, I'm suffering from anxiety. What should I do?" And here I'm like, "Yeah, well, I sit down, do a breathing exercise, And this is people that don't necessarily meditate, so I didn't want to get them too far in, because then they wouldn't want to do it. But it was really interesting. All of a sudden, I felt it, and like I'm heading out of town, on Friday, and this started. I think it was Tuesday. It hit me, and it's weird. I haven't felt that in a while, and there's a couple of modalities I use to do it. Nothing was shaking it, but then the thought came to my head, and there's this woman, Vicky. She does tuning fork therapy.
Okay.
Yeah, and it was literally just when I thought of her and called her, I left a message. All of a sudden, my anxiety settled down. She called me back. We spoke a couple minutes on the phone, and obviously I'm headed out of town, and I'm busy. She's busy. I didn't have time to get in. But just in that, knowing that she was there and almost forgot, it settled it down. So it's almost like knowing you have the pills in the cabinet, but you can't get to them right away, is when the headache goes away, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
So, but even though the act of the modality, I know it's not the true empirical causation, but there is something there about the follow-through. So it's not to deny it, even though empirically that's not what's happening. But we really don't know what's happening. But I can tell you something did happen. And then she said, she's like, "Oh, I'm going to text you in about an hour or so and tell you I'm going to begin this clearing of your system." And I'm like, "Oh, she's never done that. Usually I go to her place and I'm laying on a table, and she takes tuning forks and she grounds my feet and my crown chakra, and when she does it, I can literally feel the energy running through my body, because I'm more attentive to it and I'm relaxed and stuff. And but she's like, no, I'll just do a clearing, and it'll help you spike your energy, and you'll have a good trip when you go, because we're going to Tahoe. I'm like, all right, that's cool. So I hung up, and I went about my business, and I felt good,
I love
but
that.
it really is. It's because I needed that. I got lost in something, but yet I intellectually understand, like, okay, my mind is creating this. Where did it go wrong? And I'm like, you know what? It might have started like 3 months ago.
Out.
Yeah, it might have started 3 months ago when that guy cut me off. I'm like, your mother. But it's a long way to go. I'm no longer trying to figure out. I'm like, I'm here. How do I clear it from this moment on? I don't want to go into the past. I am not a historian. The more I study history, the more I realize this is nuts. And what I got away from history is we're still here. Yeah.
I like how you bring that up, like just the idea. When you were kind of explaining that story, it's that mental, I know this is the mind, that frequency you're in. Was it Einstein who said, you can't solve a problem in the same frequency in which it was created?
Yeah, there's multiple. He said you can't solve a problem with the same consciousness and mind that created the problem.
Yeah. And so that, that's kind of like what we do when we get wound up. We're like, all right, I got to make this good right now. Yeah. And it's like, wait, hold on. I'm still in the same frequency at which I found myself in an angst or in an anxiety, whatever you want to call it, anxious feeling.
And that's why. So what I like to tap on today, one of the things, and we'll see where it takes us, is a couple of these modalities in which we talk about. Like I mentioned this one, the tuning fork biofield.
Yeah.
It's a biofield tuning fork, and we all have electromagnetic field around us because we are energy. And this particular modality goes in, and if you look at your biofield, there's rings that permeate away from you. And I believe the left side, if I'm getting this correct, is your past, and then the right side is your future. So they start in the past, and so if there's a ring, a frequency ring that's disturbed, they'll go in and tune it. So they'll tune it, and it doesn't matter what caused it. It could have been your mom yelling at you, some kid punched in the playground in third grade.
Whatever past trauma you're holding on
to.
Yeah,
but what they do is they clear that energy from it. Now, you can replicate it and go back to it and start that again. It's like, you play guitar, and so it's like the better you get playing guitar, the less you have to tune it. All right, but you could still go back and whack it out of tune. But actually, when you're really good, you notice it's slightly getting out of tune, so it never gets too far. You're actually better at keeping it in tune the whole time. But when you first started playing, it's like I'm like I would make it halfway through a song and have to retune my guitar, because I was doing thrash metal. It's like, what are you doing? I'm doing Pete Townsend. I'm hitting the goddamn wall with my guitar. It's
Hell
like,
yeah. That's awesome.
But anyway, so that was one modality. And, I was saying earlier, just knowing that was in my pocket automatically started satisfying my mind. So let's talk about modalities. And this is what I suggest. A lot of people, and me included, it's when we're in trouble we want to be saved. Well, what we're doing here is me and Mike are encouraging. I'm sure Mike is on the same field as encouraging as I am. Is let's stop practicing these modalities as preparation for response rather than, because if someone's like, I'm a major depression, anxiety, what can I do? I'm like, well, that's a tough time to sit down and try to meditate, because you want to meditate when you're actually in a calm place, or the practice anyway. It's almost like a firefighter doesn't learn how to put a fire at a real fire. They set a controlled fire. The first one, I don't know, I'm not a firefighter, but I'm sure they might take a garbage can and light on fire. Okay, put that out. All right, and I'm just making this up. I don't know if it's true or not. Then they make a fire that's not contained, but there's nothing else. Put that out. And then they set a building on fire. But they're actually creating it. It's because when you actually come to a fire that you didn't create, it was created. And with metaphorically, yes, and also metaphorically, the outside world we didn't create. We're part of it. But instead of freaking out and expecting, I know what to do here, it's no, you know how to respond to it, because you don't know about what's going to happen until you walk into the building. It's fire. You don't know. You've never been in that fired building before, that building that was on fire. The other things you did, that replication, will know to allow you to go in there and respond properly. So by utilizing some of these modalities, such as meditations, a multitude of meditations, me and Mike will go over some today. Mike will talk about one of his favorites, and I'll talk about mine. And it's about practicing now, so when these things do come up, you know they're there. The tool is there. But if you never used it before, you're going to question whether it works or not. You know what I'm saying? That's why most people run away from a fire, because they've never experienced it. So they react rather than respond. So the better we learn to respond in the world, the easier the game is. All right? Because we don't know. Nobody knows. But when we step into the unknown with confidence, what we call confidence, that's a responsible person. So the ability to respond is what responsibility means. All right? So do you want to start off with the meditation you enjoy?
Before we jump into that, I do want to say I like how you said it makes the game easier. And that's really what we're all looking for. We're all looking for peace. We're all looking for that letting go.
But there's always going to be an element of the game that we don't know for certain, but that's part and parcel of the game. Like, would you bet on a game knowing it was fixed? And even if it was fixed, you don't know how well it was fixed, right?
Mm-hmm.
you know,
how fixed is it?
But this is why we do it, all right? We do it because, but the more responsible, the more the ability we ever respond to, the better we do. We can come back from something easily, rather than reacting and freaking out. You know, what kills you is the freaking out, running and get hit by the car. It wasn't the monster that killed you. It was your reaction to the monster who made you run off the cliff or jump in front of a car, whatever, wherever you were. But if you were responding, you would simply move towards something and realize, oh, it's just an illusion. It's really all it is, and I know how to deal with this illusion. So when we learn to respond in the world, and some of these modalities we're going to talk about will actually help us do that.
I love that.
Yeah.
You can kick us off. What's your favorite form of meditation? Or I guess we don't have to say favorite.
Yeah, I have no favorite, but there is one I've been doing for many years now. It's a TM, they call it Transcendental Meditation. And I enjoy that one. And the reason I enjoy it, because it's probably the most simplistic. And what it means is you can take it anywhere. Like, they always suggest you do it in as quiet as environment as you can, but I've actually done it on the subway. And people don't realize subways aren't really as loud as people think they may be, unless you've been on one. It's not. People typically don't talk. So the noise is just the train running through the tunnel. The noise becomes is when people are coming on and off the train. So I've done it there and had amazing effects. And I think the reason I had amazing effect there because I didn't expect to. Like, it's a train, but I'm going to do it. Sitting at a doctor's office. Obviously, if you can choose a quiet place in your house,
that's great too.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's controlled, but that's why I like this type of meditation, because it's a meditation I could take anywhere, and it's something that when you're taught, you go through a lengthy process with an individual. It's a one-on-one type of meditation you learn, and there are intricate aspects to it. There's an intellectual side to it, but the greatest part of it is the experience of it. And there's no right or wrong experience. But so the practice I'll do is like 20 minutes in the morning. I'll wake up, I'll do a couple of things, I'll settle down. I won't do it right when I wake up. And then somewhere midday, not in the evening, I want it sooner, and I do another 20 minutes. Again, that's typically where I have to carry it with me, because I'm never in the same spot at the same time. In the morning, I wake up, before I hit the gym and stuff like that. I have the ability to do that. And typically that's done without music.
Okay.
You just close your eyes. You pretty much just sit in a chair with a back on it, with your feet planted on the ground. Your hands in your palm, it's whatever. Mm-hmm. Keep your back as straight as possible. There's, no major focus on it. And you just gently close your eyes, and you're given a mantra, and you just simmer into it, wait about like 30 seconds or so. I'm now at the point where I don't really have to keep time. Like, they want you to do 20 minutes. You actually kind of understand. Sometimes I go a little above. Sometimes I break a little before it. But you do that, and you simmer into it. And about 30 seconds or so into it is when I silently start saying my mantra. And it literally, you transcend, and you picture yourself falling below the surface. If you imagine like the ocean, where it's very rocky and movement, a lot of irritation on the surface of the ocean. But as you move further down into the depths of the ocean, it's quiet and still. So it's a representation of getting to the pure mind, the quiet and still mind. And then what you do is you say this mantra, and every time you say the mantra, you feel your body sinking further. And when a thought hits up, it's like an air bubble coming up to the surface, and you get caught up in it. No big deal. But once you go back to the mantra, because when you're actually silently saying the mantra, you're not thinking. But what happens is, because thought seems to overpower us here in the world, the mantra slips away and the bubble takes over, so to speak. And then when I notice I'm in the bubble, that's when I go back to the mantra. And that's the game. So don't get upset at it, because no one gets it perfectly. But what you'll find is you'll get far down where you do it, you'll say the mantra and the bubble pick up, and you're kind of oscillating. But now when I oscillate, I'm nowhere near the surface. And then there's a moment in time in the part of the whole the whole meditation is to then let go of the mantra. And even the way I do that is you partially say the mantra, or you think the mantra, and then all of a sudden you do it. And what happens is, once you notice you're not saying the mantra, a bubble comes. But yet it's like this sweet spot that you can never explain. And these type of techniques, these type of modalities, are where the understanding there's something more to the physical world that we're really understanding. But it's very difficult to come back, because every time, like when I've done it in a group or I talk to people, I've done group meditations and stuff, we sit and talk about the experience, and we're just trying to wrap our minds around it, but you really can't. But that's the fun of it, trying to wrap your mind around it, because everyone that's there understands somewhat what you're saying, but not fully. But I don't think we're supposed to understand life fully. Yeah, it's done. We're done. We don't need no more science. We've got this. It's all figured out. And we know that's not true. And that's what makes us wake up every day to see what else is out there that we haven't experienced. So that is one of my most reach to. But I have other ones that I enjoy immensely as well.
Well, let me touch on something, too, that I think is spot on about transcendental meditation. And it's within the mantra. So the point of meditation, obviously, no thought, clear the slate, turn off the operating system. That's the goal, idea of this, thing that we call meditation.
If there is a goal, because in meditation we try to get...
There is no wrong way to do this.
It's just a mere experience, but yet when you get to that experience where thought dissipates, that's where it becomes amazing. But yet, would it be amazing if there wasn't thought that preceded it? And that's interesting. Yeah.
But so, with that said, knowing that, okay, and I don't want to say end goal, but goal, no thought, etc.
Yeah.
So, thought is all around us, and that is what we like. That's what awakening is. It's realizing you are the witness to the thinking mind, okay? And so what transcendental meditation really nails is the reason they give you a mantra is so a mantra that how it works or whatever. The mantra is not a word or a saying, or it's not like thank you or you're loved or something like that.
There's no definition to it.
Correct. It's a sound. It's a word. It's formless, and they do this on purpose. The point of the mantra is something to center you, bring you back to that 0 point. But not something that the mind will attach to. Because just like saying thank you or I love you or you're loved or whatever mantra you picture, that in itself, you've got very conditioned layers of thinking that get applied onto that. So when it's an om, a sound, a noise, whatever, that's why that mantra is provided. It's to not attach to the form and ideas that are so conditioned. It's hard for us to even see it sometimes.
Yeah, but that's why, like a lot of times I'll meditate too. I'll just sit silently and listen to music. So music then becomes the mantra. Now, I enjoy music, and sometimes there I can forget the music's playing. I let go of it. But sometimes you recognize music is always there, but when I do the more transcendental, you're not doing it to music, and you let go of the mantra, it seems to me to be easier to get there. But there are times when I've listened to music and used the music, the sound, I follow that sound, and that becomes my mantra until I forget there's a sound. And then I come back to it. So you can use it any way. It's something to pull you in a focused, and then when you get to that focus place, you then want to let go of the bullseye in which you're looking at and just experience everything at once. And it's a brief moment in time. It really is. But you don't even know, because I'm not timing myself. You just, it eludes you. Because if we're not near any gravitational pull, we understand gravitational pull is a thought, you don't understand time. Time doesn't even exist. Because the further you get away from, if you look at time space, the further you get away from a mass and time space levels out, or the fabric of time levels out, there is no relevance to time. Because there's no mass or gravitational pull, which somewhat causes time. And so it's interesting that when you actually let go of the mantra or don't hear the music anymore, that's part and parcel. This is why we do it. But every other component in it is part and parcel of it, not to be ignored. It's kind of like the experience, too, if you never meditated before, as we're talking about this, like why does a skateboarder start up on a platform, go into a half pipe, and come up and elevate above the point in which they're at? It's to simply get to that point where they're not moving up or not falling. It's that sweet spot that only lasts a minutiae of a second. But they do the whole act of doing this just to move up, and they're going, and they stop, and then coming down to start over again. They do all this work just for that moment. This is what life's about. It's carrying the water, chopping the wood, so you can boil it for your soup. But the act of everything is part and parcel. So even when thoughts come up, I love that. I love it because in the beginning when I first started meditating, it would aggravate me, which was funny because I thought I'm supposed to be quiet-minded. And I was like, no, if you're quiet-minded, you wouldn't need to be meditating. It wouldn't be in existence. But it's how do I control the quiet mind? Is knowing I have it available. Knowing I understand and knowing I've experienced the meditation got quiet means it's out there and it exists. Just like the firefighter who runs into the fire knows they've been here before, even though it wasn't this exact fire. But they have it in their pocket, so to speak. They have it in their arsenal. So they run into the fire, and when they get there, they'll know what to do, but not before. And that's the amazing thing. Wherever you go, you can take meditation with you.
I do want us to say on that same note, carrying the thought, the idea that thoughts are something that in a way you shouldn't have or are a negative thing.
Good luck with that.
Well, again, we touched on this last week, but thoughts are just like your heart beating, your breath breathing, your body breathing. That's all a thought is.
It's
to
constant.
think that the thought is something, that's your mind attaching, saying, oh, this is good, this is bad, I shouldn't have thought, I must turn it off. That's the mind attaching to thought. It's just at work. And so you kind of create this space between there, and you see the thought, and Muji says it best, like clouds passing by. You're fully aware that, okay, the thought came up, but you just don't grab onto it. And, it's just the heart beating. It's just your body breathing.
Yeah,
with the
and I
thoughts.
like how you said the clouds because, the brilliance about watching a cloud pass by, because even in the windiest day, a cloud still moves at a rate that's slow based on where we are on the earth and how high they are, so you could see it slow. So even think about, take it to, if anyone had seen the movie Matrix. So the scene when they were shooting at him, like he would slow everything down. So even the bullets were at a speed to where the character could simply move out of the way. So when we get into this slowing down and be conscious, you can actually see the thought coming and just simply dodge it, let go of it.
Hence the bullets.
But when you're caught up in it, it's you getting hit by it, you getting dragged by it. It's very difficult to get out of the way of a bullet if you don't understand you could slow it down.
I think that they were implying our thoughts are those bullets.
Exactly. That's the metaphor we use.
That is the metaphor.
Yeah. So now we could slow it down and just simply, there was one scene when boom, they just stopped in front of him.
Because you see the thought for what it is.
Yeah. Well, it had no effect on him.
Mm-hmm. So, unless you allow the mind to allow
exactly. Yeah, because a thought can drag you through the street, or just like a car can, or you could just simply watch it pass on by.
Give no attention to it.
That's it.
Give no attachment to it.
Or just simply look at it. Oh, nice red car.
Simple
but I
acknowledgement.
choose not to get run over by it.
That is.
Yeah. That's why I walk in the crosswalk.
There you go. There you go.
And that's, so these tools, the meditation we're talking about, even engaging in a conversation like me and Mike are doing, we're actually not into a form of thought. We're actually in a form of contemplation, which is actually thought without the, I think it was last time or the week before that. So contemplation is the form of thought without the con. And what I mean, like the pro and con. So the pro is like, oh, this would be great. The con's like, oh, well, this can happen too. So when you go back and forth, it tires you out. It's like running like 2 miles this way, 2 miles this way, 2 miles this way, 2 miles this way. 8 miles later, you're still in the same spot. But if you just ran 2 miles, 2 miles, 2 miles in a linear perspective, you would be 8 miles away from the place in which you started, which gives a satisfaction to the mind. You know, that's what we're talking about. You're running all day long, but are you getting anywhere?
I like how you said satisfaction of the mind. Because that's what we're always kind of all chasing.
Yeah. So when we actually let go and let things pass on, they don't distract you. So contemplation is moving with the thought of something working out without knowing how it worked out. Thinking is, oh my God, this looks cool. This may happen. Oh my God, this is great. This may set you apart. And then all of a sudden you go in here, you go in there. You become bipolar in your thoughts. And that's where the exhaustion comes from. And then all of a sudden you think it was like, well, I don't want to do that. Why? I'm like, I can't do it. I'm like, it's not that you couldn't do it, but every positive realm in life always has a negative. It's a fact. Just like every quarter or every coin has a heads and a tail. But if you just simply focus on the head, and that's all you focus on, that's a contemplation. There is a tail. I'm aware of that. But if I keep flipping it back and forth, I'm not even going to want to put it into the vending machine to get the goods I want. Which side should I do? I'm like, it doesn't matter. Just put the damn thing in the slot, you know?
I like that.
And that's what thoughts do to us. So it's not that you're not worthy. It's not that you're not capable. It's understanding the thinking mind opposed to the contemplation mind. The thinking mind will talk you out of it. Why? Depends what kind of mood you're in that day. You know, years ago they said, write a pro and con list to see if this is going to work for you. I'm like, yeah, I've learned, but the problem with that is if I'm having a bad day, I'm not going to want to do this business. But if you just say, well, why do you want to start this business? Because it'll be exciting. Okay, focus on that. Build off of that. But do not try to plan because we don't know what's going to happen. Just like the firefighter running to the fire can't plan. They could look and see, okay, the fire's coming out of the second story. So they know something, but they don't really know till they get in there. But if they try to plan it and say, okay, you're going to run down the hallway, make a right and go to the left and go this way. You get in there like, holy shit. I can't. There is no hallway. There's no right. You know, the schematics are wrong. Mm-hmm. But the firefighter still gets through and responds and does what they have to do. Later on, they could tell you what they did. It's over. So it's about understanding we have these tools of these modalities that help us to respond in life rather than react. React is pretty hysterical. That's what sends you running back to the corner. But responding is like, oh, but you don't think. You respond. Like anyone knows in sports, especially quick moving sports, if you think you're done. You know, Mike, when he stepped on stage with his band, if he had to think about what chord to hit, you're done. You didn't think, you just contemplated. You allowed the music to take over. Like how many songs would you guys play in a set? Or
it depends. If we were headlining, we do 16 to 18.
All right, so 16 to 18 songs. Can you imagine? How do you memorize that?
Yeah.
From the mind, you don't. But from the body, the field of energy, it just comes. Like, how does anyone know that? You know, there's something within the field that when I do that, oh, I remember. It's kind of like, I don't remember last time I went back to church. You know, I'm Catholic, but if I sat in there, all of a sudden I know, oh, Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, thy kingdom come, thy will be done.
I don't know if it's in heaven. I could go with you right now. That's
because
buried so deep into the subconscious, I could list those.
But you know what it is?
I went to Catholic school my whole life.
Yeah, but sometimes I'm doing my meditation, I use it as my mantra.
I do.
Love it. Oh, it's brilliant.
Well, the words are just details, guys.
It's sound.
It's all sound. Exactly.
The brilliance of that mantra. Why I have that mantra because it's actually kind of set out in the prayer in the way they give it.
That's what I believe prayer really was.
Yeah, because
and then it got misinterpreted.
Our Father who art in heaven. Like you have to study this down. So if you don't understand Shakespearean, you won't understand the prayer, but it sounds good. You know, I remember I was in I forgot what grade I was in. I asked. It was sister. I asked her, like, what does this mean? And she goes, what do you think it means? And I was not a smart ass. I really wasn't. But I'm like, if I knew that, I wouldn't be asking you. Well, she didn't find kind to that. But I had no idea what it meant. Our Father who art in heaven. I'm like in fourth grade. Like, what does this even mean? Like, speak English. And then it's like, well, this is old English. You know, like, it wasn't even explained to me until I started learning Shakespeare later on. I'm like, ew, this makes a lot more sense now. But I actually liked it better when it makes sense because it was just a...
I feel like that's why we let Latin Mass go as long as it did. It wasn't the words that were making... It's the energy, it's the field in which our souls were.
Yeah, and this is why in a lot of what we consider indigenous cultures, they chant. They don't. There's no meaning to it. Ya 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 ya. And I could take ya ya and make any word out of it because it's a frequency within the word. But the thing is, what does that word mean? Now we get hung up on the meaning.
Exactly.
And we can't steal. Oh my
this
God,
is why
I don't like
mantra,
this. I don't like this meaning. So it's a hi ya hi ya ya.
Why the word?
What does that
formless.
mean? I'm like, it's not what it means. How does it feel?
Yep.
Oh my, it feels good. What does music mean?
See, that's where we get lost and hung up as
meanings.
Three-dimensional people, whatever you want to call this reality, is we hang on to the meaning of everything. Something happens, and rather than just letting it go and be in the past, which is non-existent, truly it's non-existent, we hold on to it.
Yeah.
And we like marinate in it. Oh, I should have said this, and what if I would have done that?
Yeah.
And how great this would have felt. And it's whoa, whoa, whoa.
But think about like, and I don't know when this started, like the phrase counterculture, but now I think when you look around, it's all counterculture to some degree. But there was a point in time when people would take, obviously here in America, we take the English language and we would, so there was a point where the word bad, what's the meaning of bad? This is the meaning of bad.
Good.
Yeah. But then it's like, oh, that's bad.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, what do you mean? No. I mean, man, bad is good now.
Sick.
Yeah, like sick. I'm not sick. I'm like, no, I mean sick. It's like, it's good.
Mm-hmm.
All of a sudden we started taking a definition like sick or bad and reforming it because there was something about the attachment to only holding on to one definition that innately is in every human being. I'm like, this is absurd. So, and because of the absurdities, we're at a place in time where people get uptight about, like, you said this. I'm like, well, that's not the meaning I gave it. And all of a sudden, it's like, what? I'm like, so now we're trying to cut out all the words because you have a meaning to it. I'm like, that's even more absurd, but I'm going to have a lot of fun with you because you can't really send me to jail. And again, I say that jokingly. My job isn't here to piss any off. So I when I'm conscious around, But you're making a hard time on yourself. So that's why the counterculture started turning these words around. Because I'm like, what's so bad about this and why are you sick? And it's like, well, to the counterculture, the younger kids, well, it was a new way of talking, and so like FBI was like, oh my God, the guy's sick and it's gone bad. It's gone bad. It's gone sick. Like they're not doing it tonight. It's like, what are you talking about? It's like, holy shit. It's like, no, they're doing it tonight. It's like
we're just describing feeling.
Yeah,
you should be able to hear it within the context of the emotion. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, but as we step away from words and defining meanings to it, actually we'll come into more of what we call telepathy or telepathic communication. And because words are, like, we have to attach, it's very cumbersome. I have to, like, okay, I have a word here, this is what it means. So when I say this word, this is what it means. So there's really no nuance to that, right? But the nuance is like, yeah, I love you. And it's like, oh, why are you sarcastic? There becomes the nuance. But then a greater nuance is like this. For those people out there that aren't seeing what I'm doing, it's just I'm making a gesture with my face. Mm-hmm. So telepathic communication as we go is just a more refined way of thinking. And one day you'll just be sitting in a room. We all have done this. Especially if you've been with someone for a long time. You could look over them like this, and they just, the look on their face, you don't know exactly the verbiage of what they're thinking, but the mindset they're in. It's like, oh, that person's happy or that person is being tortured. Like, that, right? Or it's like you look over at your spouse or your wife and like, oh, shit, I am in trouble. Like, no words were spoken.
Everybody knows that.
Oh, I am in trouble.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you've had a mom.
And then sometimes you're like, you're not sure, and you look, hey, am I in trouble? What do you think? I'm like, oh, damn it, I knew it. I'm really good at this. Well, if you were good at it, you wouldn't be in trouble. It's like, I get busted all the time. But that's part of the game.
Well, I love where you're going with that. Okay, so...
Karen doesn't.
Right. When we all talk about energy, right? We've all been to the Phoenix Suns are playing tonight. Hopefully they're winning tonight. They're right now.
Unless you're from Milwaukee,
but yeah, right.
We love you, Milwaukee fans.
We still love you. But let's just say you go. Why do we spend money to go to a basketball game or a finals game or a baseball game or the World Series?
Yeah.
It's the energy that is captured when you're in that stadium.
And it's not choreographed.
It's an
You have no idea.
experience that you're going for, right?
Yeah.
And so the energy when we talk about a baseball game, a basketball game, a football game, all that. The energy of when somebody is staring at you and you're not looking at them. When you got eyes, you feel the burning holes in you with their eyes, whatever the saying is. So we feel that energy. We know we also can feel energy of when you walk into a room where people were fighting or upset. We discussed this very thoroughly from a psychological perspective, dealing with children being raised in households with lots of fighting. So we as humans, we know energy is a true thing. We understand I can sense the difference of stuff, right? And then when you hear about law of attraction, or when you hear about these different things, these concepts come up that Frank and I will often discuss. These concepts, everybody universally feels it in their heart. They're like, yeah, there's a lot of truth to that. Why would you ever want to look at the glass, half full? Of course, what you're looking for, you're going to find. You can pretty much sit down with anybody, and they can instantly. Absolutely, that feels right. I get that. So with that energy, with this understanding, with the knowing involved, why isn't this put into practice? In plain and simple, we need to put a focus on the subconscious mind. We need to draw attention to the reason we can lose track of this energy so quickly, or lose track of this knowing so quickly, and it's because we're getting caught up in conditioned thinking and action
and distraction.
Yes, and so when you can hone in and focus and see that, and this is what Dr. Joe Dispenza did for me a lot, especially when I watched his show Rewired.
Yeah,
he, from an analytical thinking mind standpoint, showed me, oh wow, I have been living this repetitive cycle of when things don't go my way, the world's out to get me, etc. Oh, there's I could never achieve this. This is out of my reach. How all of that is just thought, and how all of that not only is not true, but it's a narrative that I've been carrying with me for years and years and years. And the oxytocin, the chemicals being released when those feelings come up, my body became addicted to them. And so it was through conscious thought and through conscious effort, I began to peel back these layers and work with myself. And that's what you guys are doing at home. And same thing with meditation. Everybody loves the idea of meditation. This is why it became culturally popular in pop music and all this stuff, is the idea of it. We all know it's the right thing to do, but it's when we sit down, what do we get lost in? The mind saying, you're not doing this right. You got something to do. You should go get a cup of coffee. You're hungry, blah, 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 blah. No, you have to force yourself to sit there and become one with the fear of the thinking mind. And so one concept that I kind of heard that really allowed me to jump into this was somebody explained it very simply all right, you got two people inside of you, all right? You got the thinking mind, and then you have the witness to the thinking mind. And when you can keep it as simple as that, that's very easy for this conditioned mind. Remember, next time you feel fear, anger, envy, any of these type of emotions that come up, do not be the character. Do not be the thinking mind. Do not think, I am angry, I am sad, I am depressed, I am this. You recognize it, and you're the witness to it. So you're no longer the actual actor or the thinking mind. You're the witness to it. That's how you start to loosen up this grip that mind has on us. And when you can see each situation from, okay, I'm going to see this from both perspectives. I trust me, I'm anxious right now, I can feel it. Or trust me, I'm pissed off right now, I know it. But hold up, I don't have to be.
Yeah.
Hold up, why do I have to attach to this? This isn't me. And this is when the awakening starts to happen.
Yeah, and this is like Mike talked about Joe Dispenza, and there's a multitude of other people. And when let's say everyone from Joe Dispenza to Deepak Chopra to Eckhart Tolle to Muji, Ram Dass, Neville Goddard, the list goes on. I could sit here all night and put the list on. But what I recognize in everyone, so one will have a intellectual, scientific way of approaching it. Someone will approach it from a different angle. What they're telling us, it is absolutely possible. That's all I need to know. So what I get a kick out of is seeing, when I look at different things, I see the connection. So when I study quantum physics and I study philosophy and I study music and I study this art, whatever it is, I'm not wanting to be a quantum physicist by no means, an artist. We all are. We're all quantum physicists at some level. I want to see the connection from the philosophy and quantum physics. Where's the connection? Where's the theology connection to philosophy and quantum physics and science? Because it's all connected. And everyone knows there is a oneness in there. Where can I see it? And when all these great people talk about the same thing from different angles, what they're letting us know, they're verifying it's possible. Now, what we're here to suggest tonight on Perspective Shift is when you're in the mode, like in other words, a firefighter, I'm keep using this theme, trains with a contained fire. In other words, they started the fire. They don't send the rookie firefighter out to the fire before even putting out a fire with a fire extinguisher. They don't do that. So the time the firefighter gets to the fire, their confidence level is so great, but they still don't know this is the first time to it. So I always suggest to people, like, with certain meditation, like, you got to do it 20 minutes. I'm like, do it for 20 seconds. Mm-hmm. Do it for 2 minutes and work your way up. And what happens is you'll then get into this experience, and that feeling lets you know one thing, that it's possible. So now, and children knew it. Why are we chasing? How do you get depressed? Because when you were a child, you weren't. If all there was depression, you wouldn't know what depression was to even fight against it. We felt this way. How do I get there? Well, if I sit on the couch and breathe in and breathe out or say a mantra or whatever, I'm consciously doing it. And then all of a sudden I'm like, wow, that was interesting, or wow, that was very frustrating. Okay, that's good. Push through the frustration. Just like everyone trying to do anything that's worthwhile, you got to push through it, Whether you're lifting weights or playing a sport, you got to push through something to the point in which you're no longer pushing, you're floating. But there is this breaking point. You're hiking up a mountain. There's an altitude change. Well, understand there's an altitude change. Allows you to sit on the stump for a couple of minutes till the oxygen level in your body picks up. The red blood cells hype up, and all of a sudden you're at the level of the oxygen that you need. The body adjusts. You don't have to run back down the mountain and try it again. Your body will adjust. Understanding that is everything. But if I was walking up a mountain and didn't understand the altitude change, I would think there was something wrong with me. And I'd walk down the mountain and says, I'm allergic to that mountain. Mm-hmm. And they're like, no, the oxygen's thinner up there from a physical standpoint. So it's like, well, just when you get up there, you're going to be a little tired at first. Walk slower, maybe take a break, hang out there a little bit. And all of a sudden, your body will adapt to the oxygen. You'll be fine. So meditation is just like that. Sit down. Who cares if you get frustrated? No big deal. Keep at it. And then you're going to find a second of a sweet spot that's like, oh, my God. I didn't have to watch a great movie or have a girl kiss me on the cheek or a good-looking man look at me and want to marry me type of thing. I didn't have to do any of that. Those are outside world things that you connected to. I didn't have to go to the beach or to Maui to have a good time. Those are part and parcel of those are experiences. But when I'm sitting on the couch and experiencing that with my eyes closed, I left the planet. And that's all I need to know is possible. So when a fire does start, I know how to respond to it. I'm not trying to avoid fires. I'm not trying to start them either. But when they do happen, when life happens, oh my God. Okay, I got this. I'm okay.
Just like that skateboarder do you think he just got up one day and said, "Hey, I'm going to go to the edge of half pipe, and I'm going to skate, and I'm going to be able to perfectly hang in the air, and then come"? Well, how many times did he fall? How much practice did he or she have?
Yeah, how scared were they?
Going down. But this is getting back on the boat of meditation.
Have you ever done that? Have you ever done on a half pipe?
I've never done a half pipe.
All right. So what's funny is when we were kids, we were doing it. We made a quarter pipe. And it was probably about 9-10 feet high. It was pretty good. We actually made it. I was a young kid. And it had these little plastic Sizzler skateboards. They were small ones. I think there's another name for them now. It was similar to it. But when you're looking at this thing and you're watching people do stuff, like, it's cool. But when you get up top on that thing, you feel like you're like looking off the Grand Canyon. And it what looks like a slope, it looks like a straight wall. Mm-hmm. All of a sudden you're terrified and you're like, how is this possible? Well, you do it. The cool thing is the pipe, so you hit the wood and you slide down and you wrap your pants on the cement down below. But you keep doing it till one day you feel it. But when you're watching someone do it, I'm like, oh, that's easy. It's like the high dive at the pool. But I could do that. You climb up there and you're like, holy hell, that's far.
That's what meditation is.
Yep.
That's what it is. We're giving up too early because we think, I can't achieve it. And then the mind says, you just weren't meant for this. And you go, yep.
That's it.
So, guys, trust me, I went through
pads on.
Yeah, I went through all of that. I did, early on in meditation. But I stuck with it because it was like you have this knowing that you're like, hey, this is
There's something
right
to
thing.
it because when somebody watches something do something, like stick with the theme of a skateboarder, you see the joy. Like, why would someone do that day in and day out? Because there's something to it. And I want to do it day in and day out. I want to feel what they would do. Well, when you ask them, like, I fell down and broke my leg and did this, skinned my knees. Now I wear a helmet and knee pads so I can evade that. But there's a time when you overcome that. And then the only time you fall is when you get distracted now. And then why do you do it over and over? Because you're trying to evade distraction. You're trying to focus. It's the brilliance of why do we do anything? It's focus, period. In the state of focus, it's great. So when we meditate, it's focus. When a firefighter runs into a fire, it's focus. When a police officer runs into a shooting, it's focus. When a military man runs into gunfire, it's focus. When someone's climbing a mountain, it's focus. Now, we don't need to do anything. I can sit on my couch and focus. I'm not taking away from the mountain or running into a fire. But I can literally do that on the couch and get that focus. But then when the outside world happens, I can focus. It's safer on the couch. You don't need a helmet and knee pads. And you don't need a bulletproof vest.
Seriously.
It depends where you live.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So my method of meditation, circling back to what we were first getting at.
We took the long road, didn't we?
Yeah. But
that's the brilliance of perspective.
That's the good road. Is probably going to be guided meditation. It's been my go-to.
Why have a cab driver take you? Why?
Well, that's the thing. So, like, I hate to use the saying, like, I've got a noisy mind, because we all have noisy minds. But my noisy mind, guided meditation allowed me to kind of check out from the noisy mind and give the thinking mind something to focus on.
But empirically, think about this. Empirically, there is no difference between guided, TM, any other type of meditation. Mm-mm. In the onset or the modality, like this, empirically, there's no difference between a Ferrari and a minivan when the object is to move down the street. Yes, the size of it, the feel of it's different. But if you're trying to get from point A to point B, they'll both get you there. Absolutely. One will get you there faster. I get
Good
that.
Point.
But it doesn't matter. But if you had a soccer team to haul around, would you get in the Ferrari?
I see exactly what you're saying.
You use the minivan, but it's going to get you to the field. You know, the dad that doesn't show up much for the kid will show up in the Ferrari.
That's funny.
Or the helicopter, depends. You know. Oh, there's Dad. Has to ruin every game for me. Pulling up in his helicopter with his 20-something-year-old wife.
Oh, that's so funny.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, so guided meditation was extremely helpful for me to let go.
Yeah.
Because it kind of gave the old ego identity inside, something to focus on and something to say, okay, I can check out for a second. Yeah. And that really helped me personally allow myself to fall into this place of being nothing.
Yeah.
What we're shooting for is all around us at all times.
Yeah.
And inside the mind, when you're living as the actor and you're living as the character rather than witnessing, it can feel busy or messy. Outside of that, it feels just right, and it's a knowing. Yeah. And so that is the space you're trying to get in, where you see, okay, I've been playing this game very seriously for too long. And this game is only as serious as I allow myself to make it.
Yeah.
And so it's in this knowing that you find that you allow your body to rest, and it's a being, because that's really what Frank and I are trying to get at is life just is, and the mind is assigning 7 billion different ways of looking at it.
And when Mike mentions about being serious about it, when we actually lift off the understanding serious, we're also not being trivial about, a child is not trivial in their play. They're actually doing it very focused. But it's not just trivial behavior we're talking about, but the severity of I must do this.
No, great clarifying point, because that is true.
Yeah, because people are like, no, it's not, Milli Vanilli. It's you literally want to stay in this focused state, but the severity, you're up against the wall if you don't do this. I'm like, no, that's your mind doing that. That doesn't really exist, And
it's the constant push and pull.
Yeah, it is. And also, to add to this, so here, me and Mike, we're still talking about meditation. He guided. I love guided as well. And what's interesting is because I have a bunch of different types of meditation in my backpack, as you say. So people often ask me, which one should I do? Well, I'm like, it's when you go to a buffet, just try all the food. You'll know. Your taste buds will know. Whatever excites you. And this is how I learn to judge stuff. So if I'm watching a show or reading a book or something, and something in the show, it could be one thing, pulls me in a direction, like a great adventurous, I explore it. It's pulling me. It's generating excitement. I don't know why. It just is. And when I follow that thread of excitement, my universe expands in vision, and I see things. So everyone has this capacity to follow their excitement, but most people say, which is the best way to meditate? And you know what? You're going to get someone to tell you, this is the best meditation. I'm like, no. There is no best meditation. The best meditation will excite you. So it's like this. Hey, what's the best type of food to eat? Well, here's a smorgasbord. Try it.
So
yeah, let you make the choice of what's best for you at the moment in which you're in.
So this idea of the best of, or the way that something ought to be, this is the excuse me. This is the operating system that Frank and I are trying to say, be aware of, be a witness to, because the idea that there is a best way to do something is foolish. There is a infinite number of ways to do this.
But there is a best in the moment in which you find yourself, and that's what generates excitement.
Great point.
Yeah.
Great point.
Just like the best thing to eat when you go to an Italian restaurant is chicken parmesan. Everyone knows this.
and you will. I like that. Because it's so funny. That's true.
Everyone knows this.
The mind is the world's biggest supercomputer, okay? That we're this is why it's so funny. We're sitting here, we're so powerful beings. We don't really look at it, but the mind is such this advanced supercomputer, and it is classifying every experience, color, sound, taste, everything into this massive index that's ridiculously long. And so when you hear something that's okay, is this better? That's your mind at work. So see the mind classifying and doing its thing and at work. There's no way something ought to be. There's no, if you do this, then you can't can't do that. These are all getting trapped in the confines of the mind. And so when we can call attention to that, it's great to recognize that, okay, that's how the system works. When you can get above the system, you're no longer trapped in the system. And what I mean by getting above is seeing how it works so you don't allow the physical feelings to overcome. Like when I get any sense of like angst or any type of feeling of sadness or anything like that, I catch it very quickly, and I don't allow that feeling to kind of permeate because I understand what I send off. I'm experiencing.
You're gonna make more of it.
Yeah, I'm physically experiencing what I'm sending out there, and so these feelings, just like Frank and I talk about those dots in the side of the road or the grooves in the side of the road, that digga when you get off track a little bit. That's what our body is. It's a tool showing you when you get that feeling. Yeah, full indication. You don't want to feel, or you should. This is not the path of least resistance. Get over. Yeah. It's your body saying you don't have to feel this way.
Yeah.
And so that seeing now when those feelings come up, they're guiding marks, and they allow you to never get trapped in a situation that's going to continue and continue. When you don't understand and when you don't see that, those feelings, when you wake up, you carry them with you every day, and they get worse and worse. And this is why we get sick. This is why disease comes. This is why we get trapped. This is why we think the world is out to get us.
But it's amazing about the reason it gets
snowball
worse.
Effect.
Yeah, the reason that it gets worse than snowball effect is because the universe still puts in us, even in the negative realm, this positive, because there's only so much you could hold on to. Eventually, you're going to hit your knees, come to the ground, and if you're at the ground, there's only one way to go, and that's up. So even when you're snowballing and going down, every snowball will eventually hit the bottom of the hill and break apart. And all of a sudden, it's not as big as it was when it started. So allow yourself to go down and do that. But know that there's an end to that. That's the brilliance of it. Now, as we elevate above, as Mike was saying a moment ago, in this level, you don't ask for advice. You just follow the thread. What you'll do is you'll do suggestions. You'll offer suggestions. But people in these lower levels want to advise people to do stuff, and it never works out. Sometimes it does work out because advice and the excitement that someone's, I do this, I advise you to do this. Well, you might be on the same generated frequency of excitement, and it works out. So then you say, oh, my God, that guy knows what he's talking about. But then you go to ask him about advice about your relationship, and he gives it to you. He's like, holy shit, he was completely wrong on this field, right? It's like when you talk about, like, what surfboard to buy, it's great. But it was like, because it's a different frequency. Like he's a great, So you got to understand at these higher levels, which we're moving towards, when you let go, you won't need advice at all. You'll just generate excitement, and people suggest them like, oh, hey, try this. Ooh, oh, my God, that's good. But I didn't need advice to eat it. And then some advice is like, that's the only food you should be eating. And then you buy into it. This is the turmoil. The turmoil is asking for advice. I remember someone told me this. A client of mine once told me this, and I thought it was funny. Because they mentioned to me about advice. I'm like, I stopped asking for advice years ago. Because all his advice to me at the time was, and I might word it differently now, was there's something I want to do, and I want someone to validate what I want, so I'm going to ask advice. Because it's like, hey, how does this shirt look on me? Well, obviously I purchased it and put it on my body, so I think it looks good. But my insecurity wants validation, so someone's like, oh, it looks good. I'm like, thank you, right? So someone was telling me, like, you know what Cher does? The singer? I'm like, what does she do? She will ask 10 people advice on something, and then she'll just do her own thing. And I'm like, there's an easier way. You could take out the 10 people and just do it. It's serious. Yeah. And I'm like, for one, I don't know if she heard that in an interview, and I don't know if Cher was being funny. Yeah. Like, Cher could have been being funny, but she's like, and I'm like, yeah, but why would then you ask 10 people? I'm like, it's so easier if you don't ask anybody. Right? And it's funny because we do that. Like, let's see what so-and-so thinks. And because if you actually linked up with someone, hey, what do you think about this shirt? Oh, it looks great on you. Oh, my God. That person gives good advice. Then you ask them, how are these shoes? They're horrible. I'm like, well, go fuck yourself. what happened? They must have hit their head. Yesterday they were good, now they're not. And it's because they're not at the same frequency set. They're not where your mind is. And why, if you put a pair of shoes on, my ex-wife, oh my God, I would go into, like, I wouldn't even ask for advice. I go into go get dressed, and I go out, and she's like, "Are you wearing that to work?" Yeah, and I would walk out and change it. She goes, "Why'd you change the shirt?" I'm like, "You fucking with me, aren't you? Like, you're messing with me." I was like, "What?" Like, you don't approach her like, "Are you wearing that to work?" Like, she was messing with me. So and I didn't argue. I just walked in and changed the shirt. And she goes, "Why'd you change the shirt?" I'm like, "I'm out of here. I'm going to work."
Is it too deep for us to dive, for us to kind of explain that?
There's nothing too deep.
Well, I mean, so...
Unless you were going to talk about my ex-wife.
Our characters, like... That was awesome. Hell yeah, Frank. Our characters play out in real life what... all of our insecurities, all of our mind, all of ourselves.
Yeah.
So, like, guys...
That's why we invite him onto the set.
Yeah. Like, okay, so, yes... Frank's ex-wife is a real person. It's a woman.
She is, and
the universe works through.
I am that
to bring what he. So when I make comments like, "Hey, you're interacting with yourself," I understand that there is a physical human being. Blah blah blah. People often are like, "What the hell? This gets too pixels. Confusing." Yeah, well, that's the thing. We can really dive deep and say, "Hey, this whole thing is all illusion," and like that's what Einstein says.
Yeah.
You know.
It is.
This is all the reality is an illusion, a very persistent one, but an illusion. That's what we mean. So, like, our thoughts and our feelings are actually generating physical experiences.
Yeah.
And the people we're interacting with, the people we're drawing into our lives, we're watching our insecurities play out.
They expose our insecurities.
In real life. That's what karma is. Karma isn't, I did somebody bad, so now this bad thing has to happen. It's you're living your insecurities. You're living your karma. You're living how you're thinking and how you're feeling is what you're experiencing. You've been playing a game with yourself since birth.
Yeah.
This is a do-it-yourself show.
Yeah, so when your parents are like, hey, Johnny's got a pretend friend. I'm like, yeah, all my friends are pretend.
Yeah,
get the hell out of here.
That's what I'm saying.
You're my pretend dad. Now get lost.
This whole thing is pretend, and it's weird when we navigate through it, but...
So this is interesting. So any of the viewers out there that watch this...
I'm still playing the role.
Yeah, so any of the viewers out there watching this, and they're looking like, wow, that's a great concept. These guys know what they're talking about. We don't.
No.
Any more than you do. Because you got it. It means you already knew it. But you're utilizing the permission slip to hear it through what we call Mike and Frank on perspective shift.
I love that you said
that.
And
I remember, like, if anyone out there knows who Bashar is, he's this, Daryl. Cool. Yeah, he's cool. Yeah. But I remember
he's worth checking out.
One time he was, he does his channeling. And a lot of it, he has people. He doesn't just channel out stuff. He does in the beginning. But most of his time is people asking questions. So people come up and ask a question, and I remember one time he said to this person, he's like, and they came up with, I forgot what the question was. It doesn't really matter, but they came to the conclusion where they understood it. He goes, now you realize you just had a conversation with yourself. I appreciate you thanking me, but thank yourself.
Yes.
Because you're the one who came up with the concept and the question and knew the answer. And when I just reflected back to the energy field in which you were in, you recognized it because you had the answer all along.
Playing the role.
That's it.
We're literally playing this out.
Like, I'm a mirror for Mike. Mike's a mirror for me.
Yes.
My ex-wife, that was like a house of mirrors.
But truly, that's what made me think of it. I was like, hey, I don't mean to go too deep, but let's throw it all out there. That that's a big time when this comes up is in relationships.
This is
and
really
people
what
will see them at home. Like when you're sitting there, your boyfriend, your girlfriend, whatever, your significant other, all of this, when you're that bickering, that back, look deep. It's you.
And then
look deep, very deep. And
one of the modalities of looking deep is meditation, where you shut it all out. Because when you get to that feeling, because people want that feeling, but they think if I can get that person to like me, if I can get the job, if I get the money, I'll get there. I'm like, no, I just closed my eyes for 20 minutes, and it might have been a brief moment in time and how we value time. but I didn't have to get anyone to like me. I didn't have to have the perfect job. All of a sudden, I'm like, wow, I have control over how I feel. Now, do that with your eyes open, right? Because like the firefighter that working in contained fire, when they actually go into a burning building that's actually burning, they're doing it with their eyes wide open. They're doing it in a very real place. The other way is like meditation. It's preparing me. So, like I'll sit and meditate, but that's preparing me for my day. And then I want to perpetuate that. One day I might not have to sit and meditate. You know, the days I don't. But then, like, you know, I lose track of things. I get exhausted. So I go back to that feeling. And I realize, oh, man, I can get there. And then I could do it sitting in my car when I'm driving. I could do it when I'm confronting a client of mine at work. I can do it at any time. But sometimes I forget. So I have to run back to the chair in the quiet room. And that's okay. That's okay. And this is the craft. This is the human craft, is controlling our output in a response way. And sometimes we forget. Sometimes we forget we have the capacity. All we need to know ever, it's possible. And when you know it's possible, you will find the modality, you will find the experience to head down. You know? So when I know it's possible, you find Joe Dispenza. When you know it's possible, you find Deepak Chopra. You find all these people. They come to you.
When the student is ready, the teacher will appear.
Yeah, not the other way around. So when you're reading a book, I'm like, I got this. It's like, well, it's almost like you had written the book, but you actually sent it off in the permission slips for someone else have to write it for you to read it. Because even, like I've written books, and even when I've written a book, I didn't really consciously write it. I got into a state, and the information came to me. And then when I realized when I had written it down, I realized this has been said throughout millennia. I'm just saying it different, in a different time and space and what we consider to be time and space. But I didn't say anything profound. I just worded it different than somebody else worded it. It's always been. There is nothing new under the sun other than a new way of perceiving it.
And I do want you to see, I absolutely perceive it as profound. I've read it. I've read both your books. But again, that is a conditioned humility. And that's what we would on Earth as humans would say that's a great trait.
Yeah, the reason I don't take responsibility, because if it sucks, it's not my fault.
Well, no,
take it up with God.
We both know we pluck things. Like I never wrote a song. I just pulled it out of the universe. It was always there.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah, and you've written many of them.
Exactly. We didn't write that book. You know, you didn't write that book. You plucked it out of the universe, and that's what's so cool is. This entire game
and think about how did you
is all encompassing.
Like, what state were you when you plucked it out of the universe?
Well, that's the thing. I was always in different, you know.
So, but think about it. This is cool.
And I love that.
So can I ask you, when you were doing this, have you ever meditated?
No.
Thank you. Meditation is a great process, a great form, but it's not necessary. There are people that have ran into fires that never trained for fire and got in and got out. The people that are uncertain about it, yeah, you might want to go in and prepare yourself. But the truth is, we're always prepared. We really are. Meditation is just another permission slip experience. I'm not saying to deny it. I'm not saying to look at it differently. But you wrote music in this profound way and never meditated before. That's the point I'm trying to make here. Meditation is a modality. It's a good one.
Not essential.
Yeah, kids didn't need to actually, you know, one of my best friends growing up was a tree in my backyard.
Yep.
Without even knowing it, you know?
Mm-hmm.
You know, when I pissed on it, it yelled at me.
Shaking the old branches.
Yeah. It dropped an acorn.
Come on, Frankie.
It dropped an acorn on my head. God
Frankie.
damn it, I'm pissing here. That's it.
I do want to touch on something you just said, though. I can't remember it, so I'm kind of paraphrasing it here. But essentially, you were saying, you know, we came with everything we need.
Uh-huh.
And that is a big deal.
Yeah.
We did come here with everything we need.
Yeah.
You know, we don't need, you know, certain. I like to.
Everything else.
I like to say with a lot of space because the mind can run crazy. Oh my God, if I didn't have this, or I need this. How could you say this? My family couldn't survive without this.
You're talking from the empirical standpoint.
Yeah. I'm just trying to relate to where the mind goes, because it can be pulling you a lot of directions. But truly, guys, we came on this earth with everything we need. And when we leave this earth, we're not taking anything with us.
No, but everything along the way that we created was not because we needed it. It was the actual manifestation of our experience. It was our artwork. Did Michelangelo need to paint the Sistine Chapel? Did he need to carve out David? And the answer is no, but he did. But he didn't need to. He didn't. But he did. We don't need to make $1 million, but if that's your David, if that's your Sistine Chapel, do it. But you don't need to. And when you don't need to, in the concept of needing, all of a sudden you're in that different place. Because when you need to do something, if I don't do it, I'm in trouble. If I don't do it properly, oh my God, what's going to happen to me? But when you don't need to do it, the paradox generates a tremendous power. And then the doing it becomes amazing. So manifesting $1 million becomes amazing when you don't need to. And it's no longer about the money. It's like, why are you doing this? You're moving down the road. You just happen to realize you manifested $1 million. It was never the money. It was never the Sistine Chapel. It was never David. It was never any of the art. But it was the expression of our lives. So when you came here, you already had your paintbrush. You had the paints. Now use them. And every use, every stroke of the brush is a new experience, a new perspective, a new shift into the perspective. And we leave it like this multiple canvas that we came here. We all came here to leave our imprint on this earth. Leave it. But you don't need it. That's why we leave it. Paint it, move on. Grab a new canvas, move on. Write a book, move on. Win a baseball game, move on. Write a song, move on.
You've already moved on thousands and thousands of times.
Yeah, don't hold on to it. And then because now you're like the guy that keeps painting the same painting and it wasn't as good as the first one. It's like, move on. But you don't need it. But the power is in the paradox, but you'll express it. You'll do it.
It is truly in letting go that you will find control.
Yeah. And that's the amazing thing.
Yeah.
All right. So if anyone has any further questions on meditation, the comment below, you can ask questions. But I suggest, you
can also email us.
Yeah, email us.
PerspectiveShift2020 @gmail.
YouTube has, oh my God. So just try out different forms of meditation. There's stuff on TM out there, and so look into it. Guided meditation, there's a ton of that. Like the guided meditation, stuff like that. It's free. You can just do it. So try whatever it is you want. And people are like, well, what do I know to do? I'm like, well, whatever excites you. Lead by excitement now. Excitement is a generating force that will move you in the direction in which why you came here.
Does it feel good?
Oh yeah, that everyone knows what feeling good is. Just do it. Don't question. Just do it and see where it takes you. I might start on this type of meditation, and it might lead me to this one. And I might only use it for 5 days, but this one will span me 20 years. Who knows? Follow that thread as long as you can until the excitement runs out. And then when the excitement runs out, a new road will begin. A new excitement will begin.
Every time.
Allow it to go. Not every painting Michelangelo did was the size of Sistine Chapel. I'm sure he did little postcard sizes, and he moved on. But the Sistine Chapel was the mother of all because of the size and the length it took him. But not everything has to be the Sistine Chapel. It could be, you probably get just as much joy of painting on a postcard, So not everything has to be a long duration of anything. That's what I want people to understand. Sometimes, go down this road, and then, you spend a little more time on the freeway. But those side roads are just as exciting as the freeway.
You're exactly where you're supposed to be right now. And everything is unfolding exactly how it should. And don't ever forget that.
Don't forget that. And that's the shift of perspective, and that's what we teach here. So, again, like you do, comments below if you have any. If you don't, peace.
We'll see you next week, guys.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us.
If you want to subscribe, please click that below as well.
Please do.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
Peace out.
See you next week.
All right.